he's like, well, I like to watch. And she's like, all right.
Yeah.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by CinemaSins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from CinemaSins, joined as always by the voice of CinemaSins, Jeremy Scott.
Hello.
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Bajinga. Wasn't that
Yo-yo ma.
Reed, Dr. Reed in Scrubs? I think that's how she used to refer to her vagina.
Oh, yeah.
Her bajinga.
I think that's right.
She couldn't.
Because isn't that the one where by the end of it, she goes, boys have a penis and girls have a vagina. No, you have a penis and I have a vagina. And her boyfriend's like, that's so hot.
Yeah. There was a reality show on someone's television in my house last night where one of the characters went to a spa and ordered a Vesparkle.
What is it? Okay. Well, I mean, I can.
That's
Something that ends with a sparkly vagina.
Mm-hmm.
A sparkly vagina.
Yeah.
I don't really want to know anymore. I definitely don't know anymore. If you have questions, I ask you to consult Google.
I imagine they just like spray something on it and then like
on the front
and
part?
then like and yeah, on the front part, and then they just like take out a pillowcase of feathers or some shit. And just let it stick. It's a very sparkly vagina you got there.
What a start.
Indeed.
What a start.
Vajarkle? What was it? Vesparkle.
Vesparkle.
There
you go.
Oh, okay.
Do some Googling.
Today we're going to go back on our road trip.
Shotgun.
On the road again. The most time-honored tradition of all, the road trip. Oh, the places you'll go.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
We are going to not a state, Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
D.C. is one of those interesting cases in American history where they basically they're their own thing, but they don't have any representation. That's where they get the taxation without representation type of thing. They're not a state, but they're their own thing.
Yeah. It's almost like the Vatican or something like that. The
Yeah.
Vatican, I guess, is its own country, but it's only that little area.
Mm-hmm.
I love D.C.
Yeah.
I love DC too. I haven't been in years. My brother used to live out that way. And so for a good, I went out there maybe 4 or 5 times. And I Smithsonian'd it up, baby. And I hit the Lincoln Memorial every time. And I always thought the Vietnam Memorial was a very moving experience. And the Washington Monument's just a big stick. I never got why it was a big deal. But I'm pretty comfortable with the metro out there and whatever they call the people mover thing. I think it's a metro.
Yeah, it's the Metro. Metro is Chicago. I agree. That's a good train.
Yeah, it is. And I just love it. I love American history. So moving forward, I may love the city a little less.
Yeah, that's true.
I've only been there the one time, and that was with the movie recipes. And I do remember I walked all over the place. I was so exhausted during that trip. I went to Lincoln Memorial. I went to Washington Monument. I went to like one of the museums. There's a whole
You went
row.
to Air and Space, I think.
Air and Space, yeah. I walked all over the place in that area, and I saw the White House and all that. But
Back when it was good.
Back when it was good. It was 2016, I believe. So Obama was
early, right?
Yeah, Obama was still in office at the
Yeah.
time. Anyway, we are going to go through this, and it's probably going to be a multiple parter.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of DC stuff.
I can't figure out why they make so many movies in D.C. when the real city is so typically conflict free. Hi, Joe.
Oh my God.
We're going to start off with a true winner here. 2012.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby.
Roland Emmerich. Yeah, Roland Emmerich, every time he comes out with a new big budget, he won't be able to do this much longer, I don't think. If he's already like, they've already might have made him stop. But every time he comes out with a new one, he tries to top the last one. He did The Day After Tomorrow just before this. And The Day After Tomorrow was super ridiculous, and it was probably even more ridiculous than Independence Day was. 2012 like took Day After Tomorrow and Independence Day and basically just like jumbled them up into the most ridiculous thing he could possibly.
When did this movie come out?
2009?
2009.
Okay, so did he pick 2012 as the year for the title and the setting because of that, like, whatever Mayan apocalypse bullshit?
Yes. It was the Mayan apocalypse, which, yes, there were people who believed in that shit.
Yes?
Oh, yeah.
I remember
yes.
there were people who came to our theater. This is from coworker told me this. They came to watch something, and I think they thought maybe Amazing Spider-Man 2 was out or whatever, but it was coming out later in the year or whatever. And without any irony, they were expressing disappointment that they weren't going to be able to watch it because the apocalypse was coming.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that was a thing that people believed in.
Yeah, and I'm thinking otherwise you would choose, like, you got to give... If you're setting a movie in the future, unless you very specifically want or need that story to resemble our reality, set it further out, man. Give your movie a shelf life. He gave himself 3 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he really heavily did rely on that calendar.
Now, one thing that obviously 2012 is not a good movie at all. It's a terrible movie. One thing that we've made fun of several times, I know I've written a bunch about it in Day After Tomorrow and in 2012, is how the scientist will always say, well, this is like 5 years away. And then like in 20 minutes, it's all the way up to a year. And then it's like, then they get it. Oh, it's happening in 30 minutes or whatever. It might be being proved right.
I was just going to say, man, what are we going to do if like 6 months from now, they're like, remember when we said we had 10 years to act on global warming? I'm doing the old news 10 years. Well, it turns out we got 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean... Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into the heavy stuff. This movie's a piece. This is the one with Oliver Platt on a giant boat, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, stay far away. Good people are in this. I don't know why.
Yeah. John Cusack.
I've seen this movie legitimately 10 times.
Because of your son?
No.
Oh,
No.
man. Oh, man.
I've got a thing for disaster movies. It's not good. I'm not even putting it up there with the good disaster movies. Independence Day. There's a couple that are bouncing around. We'll talk about Day After Tomorrow in a little bit. But there's something about Cusack. There's something about Woody Harrelson's in this movie. There's something about just the chase and the constant kineticism that I find watchable. I'm not going to be, dissecting it or anything like that.
Is this the one where Woody's like up in a tree?
Yeah, I mean, he's in Yellowstone.
Yeah,
he's predicting the
and
end.
he's got his like hard Harry broadcast essentially telling everybody that the government is lying to you and all that. And then but yeah, Cusack probably gets through about 5 places where he should die.
Oh yeah,
especially the drive through. Is it L.A. when
it's
they're
L.A. at the beginning,
and all the bridges are like they're being tossed around like freaking toys, and he goes through the building and all that
in a limo.
Yeah, I mean, good God. But yeah, 2012. I think that's the beginning of the you've got to take a look at this cliche in our videos because it is said about 5 times in the movie.
In that one, it is.
Yeah.
But it wasn't enough for a bonus round, right?
It wasn't. That's one of the things about bonus rounds is like that it happens a lot, but then when you put it in a bonus round, it just feels short. So
and then you have to spend all that time locating all the times where it's happened. So by the time like the third instance has happened, you're like, you know what? That's happened a lot. I bet it's going to happen more frequently through the rest of it. So then you start keeping count, but then you have to go back to the beginning and watch all the ones before then, too.
Yeah.
And if you don't get to the level of where it's a bonus round, it's frustrating.
Those of you awaiting an Aquaman video are going to probably know what we wanted the bonus round in that movie. But
we even said it in the 8 Mile video. It was because I knew that there was going to be enough of Mekhi Phifer say, DJ, spin that shit.
Yeah.
For that to be a bonus round. But no, it's like 7 or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
On to Absolute Power, which is a movie I still haven't seen, but I know that you guys have discussed a couple of
Yeah,
times.
there's no reason to see it. It's one of the lesser Clint Eastwood cat burglar movies. It's one of the lesser modern Clint Eastwood movies. I read the book. I loved the book. I'm pretty sure this is David Baldacci who wrote the book.
Yeah.
And his stuff's pretty good.
Isn't Baldacci, doesn't he basically do DC-based thrillers and stuff?
Political crime and thrillers, and he's kind of taken over Grisham and Crichton's spot in terms of he's a very popular writer.
I kind of enjoy this movie. It's got really good people. This is the end, so like In the Line of Fire, which we'll talk about later on, and this are the very end of Clint Eastwood being a viable, like an action star, right?
Yes.
So and it's got a good cast. It's got Gene Hackman, Ed Harris, Laura Linney, Scott Glenn, Dennis Haysbert, Judy Davis, and Richard Jenkins.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's not excellent or anything like that, but
It's better than Blood Work.
Yeah.
It's better than Blood Work.
But
for
that's
sure.
not saying anything.
It's crazy. Eastwood's post Unforgiven directing career, like before he gets to $1 Million Baby and all that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just all those just blood works and absolute power, and he's got a Perfect World in there. We've talked, that's a good one, but like it's these random, who gives a shit thrillers like this. Then we have Air Force One.
Air Force One.
Oh man, that's my favorite tennis shoe.
Yeah.
It's so good that Nelly wrote a whole song about it.
It is. It is. I have not seen this movie since the theater.
Yeah.
Really?
Me too.
I saw it one time and kind of side-eyed it, and that's about it. It felt like a Die Hard ripoff that was better than average.
Oh, it's good.
I don't know.
It's good.
I'll have to go back. I can't really. I know Gary Oldman's accent was bad.
No. It was. I mean, I don't know. I don't speak Russian, but like
pretty
he's
emphatically telling me I'm wrong there.
This was a stretch where Gary Oldman between this. I know Dracula was way before, but this Fifth Element, like he was trying. Every bad guy was a different accent. He couldn't just be a bad guy.
Yeah.
The Professional, he was actually American.
That
wasn't
continued all the way up to the Darkest Tower.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Darkest Hour, and then Hitman's Bodyguard. He's also like a Chechen dude with a Chechen accent.
He's got a sneaky big resume. He's in
totally.
a lot of shitty movies you don't know about.
And this is a good one. Harrison Ford. This is maybe so this was 97.
Yep.
This is maybe towards the end of him being a viable action star.
Yep.
And Glenn Close is the vice president, I think. And Gary Oldman chews the fuck out of some scenery, man. Mm-hmm. And I really like this movie.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't seen it in forever.
I can't bash it that much. I haven't seen it.
Doesn't it have one of the worst airplane crash CGI things ever?
You know what's weird about that? So even in 1997, when I'm still in high school, and we went to see it in the theater, and it's dark, and I think it's raining, and even with all that going on, we all looked at each other and we were like, "Dang, this shit."
Yeah, yeah.
It's literally like you made it in Corel Draw or something.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Wolfgang Peterson, I believe, also could some of this could be said for Perfect Storm as well. Didn't have some bad CGI too?
Yes,
it
it's
does
one of those
have
movies
some, yeah.
it's one of those movies that when it came out was heralded for great CGI, and literally the next day had bad CGI.
That is true.
Next is an all-time classic, All the President's Men.
That's right.
This movie is so good.
It's dubious.
Yes. We've talked about this movie a lot. I feel like DC is a character in this though.
Oh, it totally is.
Especially with that great, I don't know if it's a crane shot or if it's just something they did, but them in the Library of Congress going through all those little, those names and everything. And it is, that music, na na, na na, na na. And All the President's Men is fantastic. It's a great movie to watch in our time, especially.
It's weird how, because I've been keeping up with Carl Bernstein's appearances, because he wrote a book fairly recently about Trump. It's amazing how Dustin Hoffman nails like his mannerisms. Obviously, it's been a long time since that movie came out, but like his accent, his dialect, his mannerisms, the physical embodiment of him. And I've watched Bob Woodward, and it looks like Robert Redford did a really good approximation of him too. But Hoffman became this dude, and he really is almost like a real life superhero. I'm being hyperbolic, but the stuff that he did, not taking no for an answer, just we know something's there. We have actionable intelligence to push this further, is heroic, I think.
Yeah,
like in a real world sense. Well,
and they put these two guys on who were not known. They weren't on the beat. This is according to the movie. I don't know if this is what was. I've read the book too. I don't know if this was a thing, but they put writers on it that they didn't, that couldn't get sort of targeted on this or whatever. If they didn't want their real beat guys on it because they could get ostracized or whatever. And then all through it, like the pains they have to go through to get this story. Jason Robards plays their editor. And he's like, we put out a poll out on Watergate. You see this? Nobody gives a shit. Nobody even knows what it is. And they still had to just soldier on because they knew they had something, but they had to get that story right. And
imagine, God damn. I mean, you're saying the exact thing that just happened.
Yep.
About how CNN just did a poll where they said, how much does Russia or the Mueller probe or whatever have to do with the election in your mind? 0%. 0% said that it had any effect on their vote. So if there's somebody like a Woodward and a Bernstein that is kicking rocks, I gotta believe that they're going to be finding something.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I feel like probably there are, but that just like these reporters, they have to make sure that they're right. Because if they stick their head out and they don't have everything right, they're going to take that 1% that's not right and make that whole 99% that is completely fall down.
Like the thing with the thing and the other thing.
Well, it's amazing. People forget. I mean, we weren't born in this time, but reading about it, people forget how vindictive and petty and just bad Nixon was.
I mean, he went after specifically these two guys.
Absolutely. Just like we're seeing right now.
Exactly.
Nixon is on that level, if not worse. He didn't have the direct feed to his audience, his base, that Trump does with Twitter. But there are ridiculous parallels.
Man, I don't want to. I swear to God, I don't want to get too political here in general. I was literally telling my wife yesterday, I think I'm just going to quit caring about news. Like, I'm just going to quit reading any of it. That's not practical, obviously. But I was watching Field of Dreams the other day when Ray goes to James Earl Jones's. And James Earl Jones tries to beat him up and throws him out. And then he comes back in with his fake finger gun and whatnot. Then they're walking into the baseball stadium and he's asking, why'd you quit, being a public advocate? And I was the East Coast, distributor for advocacy, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, then they killed Martin and Bobby, elected Tricky Dick twice. And I just went, God damn.
Yeah.
Like, I just connected to that in a way I never have before.
No, right? Yeah.
Because I think history has softened kind of how evil Nixon was.
Yeah.
Even for me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, because as you and I and Barrett have been growing up, every time they put Nixon in anything, he's comedic. We even did an outtake recently with the Simpsons thing.
Yeah.
Where he's like, that pig had powerful friends. Oh, you'll pay. Don't think you won't pay. And like, of course, Dan Hedaya played him in Dick. And he's been a comedic character. And just like what we were talking about with Michael Jackson stuff, like the fact that it's been a joke for so long, we don't remember like, oh, this guy actually it's not a cool guy. We shouldn't
this is not my type of guy.
I don't like to be political either, and I know that we have listeners out there who like Trump, but
it's hard even if you do. Objectively, it is difficult to not see the parallels.
It is.
Yeah.
All right, on to Along Came a Spider, which was the follow-up to Kiss the Girls, at least movie-wise, with the James Patterson stuff.
Monica Potter?
Yeah, this is the Monica Potter, Morgan Freeman.
All right. I would not... Have you seen this?
I have not seen this.
Have you seen this?
Oh, yeah. It's been a while.
I think the other one is better, and I don't like the other one.
Yeah.
I agree. Perfectly said.
This one has a twist. I swear to God, this movie thinks it is springing some shit on you at the end. And it is the most, well, duh twist I ever saw. Just don't waste your time. If you've seen it, you probably know what I mean. If you haven't, just go back and watch the other one that's not very good, but Ashley Judd in it.
The other one is watchable just because of Morgan Freeman and Ashley Judd, basically. And I guess this is an interesting... he's a detective forensic psychologist.
Of course, because you see those on every corner.
Yeah, I don't think that job... It's like symbologist.
Well, it's like the gal on Bones, like the forensic...
that actually does.
Well, no, my point is, it does exist, but there's like 4 of them in the world.
And they're all in Knoxville.
She's based on a series of books where this woman is off having adventures every 6 months.
Yeah.
I know it's a real thing. It's just like a super tiny real thing.
I know. But, avoid.
Yeah. By the way, Bones.
Yeah.
That series lasted way longer than I thought it did.
Well, and they just won like a big-ass lawsuit. Like,
yeah, I saw
David
that.
Boreanaz and Emily Deschanel and them because Fox, screwed him out of a bunch of money.
Really?
Yeah.
Like $133 million
They kept
judgment.
saying that their
Jesus.
profit. They kept telling them their profits were not nearly as much as they were reporting.
Fox?
Yeah,
And that was the basis of the lawsuit was the show cannot run this long and be this successful and have only made X. What you're telling me? They
what
won.
A brazen
This is-
fucking fraud,
This
man.
is the same thing that Harry Shearer keeps on bitching about every time contracts are up there, and he said it. He's like, "Look, I have a great life, more than I deserve. I'm getting paid a ridiculous amount of money, and I am still getting screwed."
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's
Well, no,
possible.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to go too off the rails, but there's an argument that NFL players are underpaid relative to how much they're bringing in.
Don't get started on college football players.
Yeah,
That's a whole different bag of worms.
Yeah. Then the American president. This was when Aaron Sorkin wasn't. He had a few good men under his belt, but I believe American President might have been his next script.
I think it was this. I just watched this 2 weeks ago.
I saw it on as well.
It holds up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
But I can't watch this movie anymore without seeing The West Wing.
Yeah.
And it's nobody's fault.
Mm-hmm.
It really isn't. But I can see, Michael J. Fox is playing Rob Lowe, and that guy's playing Toby Ziegler, and David Paymer is playing Toby Ziegler. Anyway,
what is Martin Sheen playing?
he's playing Leo McGarry.
Okay.
He's playing Leo. And anyway, I love it. I think it still holds up pretty well because it keeps the politics pretty general.
Mm-hmm.
And more about whether or not he should engage. Like, it paints the Republican guy as the guy who wants to do a dirty campaign, and Michael Douglas doesn't.
Richard Dreyfuss's performance in this movie is borderline. It's almost terrible.
It really is.
I know what he's going for.
It's a caricature almost, right?
Yes, yeah. My name is Bob Rumson, and I'm running for president, and all that. It's obvious that Dreyfuss, who's very known to be liberal and everything, has just sunk his teeth into the almost Cheney-ish kind of cartoon villain there. But yeah, I love this movie too. It has, by the way, one of the worst get back together scenes I've ever.
Oh, at the end?
Yeah,
it's bad.
The reason why is the dialogue that they exchange, because after Douglas has had this big speech in front of the reporters and everything, I'm going to get the guns and all that.
Yeah.
She comes in and she goes, "I just want you to know that I didn't come back because of whatever RSUD 119." And he's like, "I want you to know that I didn't come back because of blah 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 blah." And then they're embracing and it's like you guys got back together based on talking about bills in Congress.
It's like Batman. I came back to stop you, babe. But it's even worse than that, because right before that exchange, Michael Douglas is in the Oval Office, and tells one of his staff members, "I'm going to get the car, go over to her house and apologize, blah, 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 blah." Then a door opens and she walks in and says, "Well, this time of day, you better avoid the Beltway," or whatever the fuck she said. And I was like, you can't hear that.
Got some
I love
problems
this
with
movie.
Yeah, I do too. I love it too. I love just all the different things in there where they show him when he decides to bomb, was it the hospital? He's not bombing. I don't know if he's bombing a hospital. but he's bombing something that only has one person in it. It's a janitor.
It's a janitor.
And he says, you know what? This guy's going to go to work today and think that everything is just the same as it always is. And then he's going to die. He's going to die because I sent the troops in or whatever. And he goes like, because this is after Michael J. Fox has said, or is it David Paymer? It's Paymer that says it's presidential, very presidential what you're doing today. And goes, this is the least presidential thing that I do.
Yeah.
You know, just one person affects him enough there, but he knows he has to do this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You know why this
great
movie's
scenes.
good and why The West Wing's good? It's because some part of our idiot nature still wants to believe,
Yeah.
Right?
in a president that cares more about us than anything else.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how much longer we can hold on to that.
Mm-hmm. No, the things have changed. Sorkin did Malice in between.
Okay, Malice.
I like that movie.
I am God. Then we have, yes, while it is all over America, it does end up in Washington, D.C. Beavis and Butthead Do America. That does have there's several funny scenes in the DC portion of
Oh
it.
hell yeah! All the cornholio shit is there.
Yeah, and what is it? Is it Butthead that says something while in the House of Representatives, and it's just like somebody's. I can't remember what he says. I can't remember what it is. It's something about somebody's butt or boobs or something, and then like all the representatives start going.
It's not in DC, but this movie kills me. I saw it like a few weeks ago, and it just murdered me. It was super late at night. I was downstairs. I was cackling so loud, my wife had to come down and ask what was wrong. Dude, what got me was when they were at the Hoover Dam and everything. Any other questions? And there's this beat of silence, and he's like, "Is this a goddamn?"
Yeah.
And they start laughing. He's like, "Goddamn."
Yeah.
What you have to appreciate, I know we've talked about this movie a lot, but what you have to appreciate in Beavis and Butthead is the commitment to the characters being as stupid as they are consistently, no matter what is going on.
Yeah.
They will react like nincompoops. I mean, they're just wandering through this whole movie. They're just almost like Peter Sellers in the Pink Panther, where they're just kind of like wandering through where all this shit is going on around them, you know?
Yeah.
And they cannot get out of their own way, but it's worked out for them.
My brothers and I used to always do that because Beavis and Butthead's simplistic view of life. It permeates everything that they do.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's a point where they find the flight attendant attractive, and he goes, Butthead's like, hey, baby, I've got a bear. and there's like, when she helps him with the belt and everything, it's like, did I just score?
What's the best is when the lady the lady villain takes him into the room and she starts taking off her shirt and they're down to their underwear.
Yeah.
And they're just laying on the bed together and they're like,
It's finally gonna happen. We're gonna score. We're gonna score.
I do think if this movie has one knock against it, they do the cornholio a bit too much.
Yeah, they do.
Because that is hilarious in short doses, but it goes on for a long time. But it does wreak a lot of havoc, so I think it's narratively needed.
Yeah, the female villain's Demi Moore, and
That's right.
and Bruce Willis plays the guy that they used to be together or whatever.
Yeah.
But also there's like David Letterman has a small part in it as basically Butthead's dad.
Yeah.
Robert Stack is in a great moment. It's one of those movies. I don't know it. I would recommend it. I don't think it's a wreck of warn, but it may have to be a wreck of warn because some people will not be able to deal with a lot of the stuff that's in this.
Maybe a product of its time.
Jeremy, you're not much into this type of
Beavis
thing.
and Butthead?
Yeah.
No, it's when you were talking about cornholio, that was a metaphor for how I feel about the whole Beavis and Butthead thing.
Oh, yeah.
In small doses, 5-6 minutes at a time, genius.
Yeah.
Once I go beyond that, I start getting a headache.
Well, that's why the music video segments
Exactly.
were so perfect
Exactly.
because they were like a YouTube video. Basically, it was I think 3 minutes was as far as they went.
Basically, it was cartoons react. Basically, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To music videos.
Yeah.
This has one of my all-time favorite gags in it though, because their TV gets stolen, and they go in and they start investigating, quote unquote. They're on the couch. There's no TV there, and Butthead like looking across the room. He sees the window open. He sees like footprints. He sees like the where they obviously went out after they took the TV, and he's like and he just keeps the camera just keeps going to the window, the footprints, the door, window, footprints, the door. Whoa! I just figured something out. This sucks.
So good. This is Mike Judge. So if you liked Idiocracy or Silicon Valley, there's a good chance that you'll like Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, definitely. Then we have Being There. I've read the book and I've watched the movie. Peter Sellers. This is a great movie.
This movie is pure magic.
Yeah, it is.
On so many levels because Peter Sellers is so. You talk about somebody that's just a blank slate, right?
Yep.
But because he's such a blank slate, everybody keeps thinking he's a genius.
That's right. He plays a gardener, and they call him Chauncey Gardner, I believe.
Yeah, it's Chance the gardener, and he's.
And he speaks in these terms of everything as gardens and everything, and so people start thinking that what he's talking about is real deep. So people will ask him a political question, and he'll say something like, "Well, when you put the seeds down in winter and you water them and you take care of them, you can have a great plant to grow." And they start like, "Oh, so you mean blah blah blah."
He says this to the president. Like, he's advising the president purely by accident.
Yeah. So yeah, all of the situations in there are people who think that he's way bigger of a deal than he is, and it derives a lot of comedy and satire from it. The book had a little bit like more graphic sexual things in it, and they tamed it up, but they
didn't. Yeah.
They made there's a great sex scene with, I think it's Shirley MacLaine.
Yes.
In here. that I think is funnier than what's in the book.
Is that the masturbation scene?
I think so.
Because she asks him what he's into, and he loves to watch TV. That's all he does every day. And he's like, "Well, I like to watch." And she's like, "All right."
Yeah. So it's a ridiculous like masturbation scene.
Oh my god!
And meanwhile, while she's doing it, he's watching TV.
And Being There, was it 1978?
79.
79. Okay. So yeah, it's a great movie. I wholly recommend. We haven't talked about this very often, but it's a great movie. Bicentennial Man. Holy shit.
This shit takes place in D.C.
Yeah.
Is it only because it's bicentennial? Right? They had to shoehorn some kind of...
Well, I mean, the whole thing, if memory serves, it was 2000 when this came out,
Yeah,
right?
Robot Robin Williams.
And he starts, it spans like 200-300 years or something like that. Because there's different epochs that we like check in on, right? So he's born, but he has different capabilities, but he's super robot version. And then he gets like souped up to be able to show emotions, and that's like 100 years later. And then he hangs out with this family. Then he goes off and like tries to find his female counterpart that
he's got to
bump uglies with.
Yeah, right.
And he finds her like 200 years later on or something like that. But I think it happens around the DC.
I think I remember why I hated this movie.
It fucking sucks.
That's what I remember. But I think I remember more about Jack than I do about this movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't remember anything about this movie. I remember a punchline. I don't even know what the setup was. There's something about a handkerchief and a boogie in it. That's the only thing that I remember.
Good metaphor for this movie.
Yeah, I remember it coming out and I saw it. Was it like Thanksgiving or something when it came out?
It was December 17th.
Okay, yeah. So I remember it being like one of these holiday movies.
It was 99, I should say.
99.
It's very close to 2000.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember it being very good. Then there is Boomerang. This is the tail end of Eddie Murphy's R-rated comedy career. I remember watching Boomerang and enjoying it, but I have not seen it since it came out.
Okay, so this is another one of those movies that my college roommate Brian, who has an infectious laugh, really, really liked. So I saw this movie probably 6 times in college.
Oh, yeah.
I could quote it regularly. It's actually, you could double feature this with So I Married an Axe Murderer, just along the theme of the male lead is too picky about women. Because that's this guy's thing. He like sleeps with a girl and they ask him, why aren't you going to go out with her again? And he's like, she had hammer time in her feet. And Martin Lawrence is like, man, you don't fuck a feet. It's full of quotable lines. Robin Givens is in this. I think this is probably, now it may be dated. Might be very 90s.
It probably
dated.
is, yeah.
But the comedy is still there. Is it David Alan Grier?
Yeah.
The one line I always remember we used to quote is he goes into this jacket shop and they're like stressing something about how all sales are final or something. He's like, what do you think? I'm going to just wear this jacket? Stank it all up to be damned and then return it. I really like this movie. I am willing to admit it may just be because my roommate in college loved it and laughed giggly at it and it made me like it.
It's not long after this. In fact, I believe it's 2 years later. Eddie Murphy's in Beverly Hills Cop 3, and it's a PG-13 movie.
Wow.
And then he does Nutty Professor. And then there's that whole string of like ridiculous, what the hell was he thinking or his agent thinking type of movies that start coming on after that. I'm guessing, I have never studied this before, but I am guessing that sort of the politically correct, like we started getting a lot of that in 92, 93 with Bill Clinton and everything. We started getting a little bit more politically correct. So a lot of the stuff that Eddie Murphy was in prior to this wasn't favored anymore. You couldn't really do the type of comedy. I watched Trading Places the other day, and I was like, oh. And I was like, yeah, we probably can't do that anymore. And with good reason. I'm not saying that stuff is just so hilarious. I miss it. But I think those movies started getting out of favor. That's why you didn't see Eddie Murphy in those R-rated movies.
There's at least one other Eddie Murphy movie on this list, or at least I think there will be. And I don't think it's R-rated, and I think I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But also, I just realized Halle Berry's in. He's Boomerang.
He's bouncing back and forth between Halle Berry and
Halle Berry's like
Robin Givens,
the friend or assistant or what have you that he hasn't really paid the proper attention to. And Robin Givens is like the girl in the clouds or whatever. And he has to learn that he actually loves Halle Berry.
Yes,
and that she doesn't have hammer time in her feet.
I don't know exactly what the Boomerang implies, but he seems to go back and forth between those two like several times.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, good for him. Halle Berry and Robin Givens.
You cannot go wrong.
Nope.
Then there's Bourne Yesterday. I've never seen this. This is a remake of another movie called Bourne Yesterday, right?
Yes, it is. This is it's Donnie J and
it's Don Johnson, Melanie
Mel
Griffith.
G.
Yeah, Mel G.
Donnie J and Mel G.
Don J, Mel G, and John J.
This is I did see this, and it is a remake of like a 1930 or 1950 movie.
This might be one of those that's been made like 3 or 4 times.
It was 1950, and I think the one, the 1950 version of this was Oscar nominated and critically lauded and stuff like that. I remember liking this. It's where John Goodman is married to Melanie Griffith, and it's almost like a My Fair Lady type of thing. Like she's low class, and she's says whatever she wants to and everything, and he's just with her because she's hot. And he hires Don Johnson to whip her into shape or whatever it is. And of course they end up falling in love. Yeah.
Okay. I've never seen it. Then there's Bourne Legacy.
Well, this is better than you think it is.
We apparently did not talk about this in Alaska, which is where it's, I guess, mostly set.
Well, he starts out in Alaska.
Then he goes to like Malaysia.
Which is a very cool... He ends up going to the Philippines with Rachel Weisz, but he meets up with her in D.C. because she works at a government contracted thing in D.C.
Yeah, and it starts out in Alaska with him and... Is it Frank Grillo?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I like that scene.
That sequence is the best of the movie by far, especially because
It's not Frank Grillo. Is it?
Is it John Bernthal? Who is it?
It's
one
one of those guys.
It's one of those guys.
I'm sorry. I just
no,
didn't
it's fucking Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac.
It's interesting. Who directed this? Tony Gilroy directed this.
Yep.
He's got a couple of times, particularly in that Alaska sequence when they're being relentlessly chased by the government, where he's got some super long takes of following Jeremy Renner. And then when he finally gets the upper hand on the assassins at Rachel Weisz's house, there's a terrific one shot that starts from the ground floor, follows him up all the way through the window, kills one dude, goes all the way down the stairs, kills the other one, and then all the way back out the house.
Yep.
And it's so unexpected because the movie, like you said, it's better than you expect, but it's not good.
Right.
And when you see that, you're like, whoa, this is, it stands up like a sore
And one
thumb.
of the things that bothered me about it before I ever saw it, that I had to ultimately let go of, was the whole adding chemicals to this thing. Because with Jason Bourne, it always felt like training and conditioning and maybe hypnosis or what have you. But here it felt like because you take these pills or we shoot this drug in you, you become super strong or super fast, which is also what Fast and Furious is doing with Idris Elba and Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's injecting himself with something and he's becoming bulletproof.
Yeah, there you go.
It's the midi-chlorians of the Bourne.
God.
The Bourne
It
series,
was
right?
the Kims all along.
Yeah.
Anyway, I
This
like
is-
Bourne Legacy.
This is sort of a paralequel, right? Like it
Yes.
it doesn't it's concurrent with Bourne Ultimatum, I believe.
And there's even, they even cut to like news footage of Pam Landy like releasing the documents at the end
Getting
of
arrested,
Ultimatum,
right?
getting arrested. And
Is that an actual thing?
No, I could have come up with like concurquequel or something like
I wonder
that.
if there is a name for that.
There probably is, although I think that probably people would just say prequel just because.
paralequel is fun.
I like it.
People hate fun.
It's like cohese.
Yeah.
Cohese is not a word, by the way.
But I know, but we have now thoroughly confused the audience because I put that in that tweet last night, and people were like, "Now that you know it's a word, you can use it more freely." And I'm like, "Wow, we just actually learned it's not a word."
I'm the same about Bourne Legacy. I think it's a lot better than people give it credit for. It's not as good as the Damon ones, but if you saw this one without the Damon ones, you'd be like, that was badass.
Yep. Well, that's my problem is that just take all the Bourne shit out of it, and it's a good action movie. You don't need that. I mean, obviously, the name recognition didn't help the box office, right? It didn't do very well.
No. It needed Damon. It needed to have that continuity.
Jeremy Renner is one of the best actors who ever put it up as the next it guy and didn't actually get there, but still had a good career.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because between Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol and Bourne Legacy, it was pretty clear he was being positioned to take over both fucking franchises, and he didn't get to do either.
No.
And he's still just badass. He was in the town. He's awesome. He's doing,
Yeah,
But he's still been in those franchises, right? He's been in the Avengers franchise.
Yeah.
He's been in Bourne franchise. He's been in the Mission Impossible. Fame adjacent.
You should just never try to hire somebody to be the replacement of somebody that it's not Renner's fault because they could have put anybody in trying to replace Cruise or Damon.
Well, it happened every time they tried to bring in somebody on 24 to be like the mantle bearer afterwards. It always fell flat.
Yep.
Then we have this is a great one, broadcast news.
Oh,
There
baby.
you go.
Yeah, broadcast news is one of the best movies you'll ever see. This is James L. Brooks, who had a sort of a short writing and directing career. I think he's made enough money from The Simpsons and everything, but he does. You look at his writing and directing; it's not a very long list.
Yeah, especially for so long of a career.
Yeah, but broadcast news is just so good. You have this. I guess it's this. The situation is that news is trying to find a way to get everybody. They're trying to get business. They're trying to get their business model based on. Well, we can't just keep. Giving news to old people over and over again. We need to come up with some stuff that everybody, so we can make a lot of money doing the news, and that's ridiculously prescient, I believe, to today. That the news channels don't really give us just news anymore. They give us a lot of opinions. In fact, would you say opinions are more than news now? Like they give more opinions than actual news?
Yes. And even the local news is influenced by the Sinclair stuff and all that.
And this isn't necessarily about people starting to enforce their opinions on things, because even back in 1987 they had the equal time and tried to look balanced law in place. So that wasn't about that. It was more about coming up with fluff pieces and things of that nature. And I think it's the very beginning of it where Holly Hunter is giving that presentation and saying, like, this is fine, but is this news?
Yeah.
And there's some people in the audience who are like, yeah, thank God stuff like this is going to be showing up on the...
Isn't it like a big, huge domino display or something that's still falling down or whatever that she showed?
I think so.
I love this movie to bits. Just saw it again the other day. I love the play between Albert Brooks and William Hurt.
Mm-hmm.
William Hurt is this pretty boy who's great at reading the news, but is pretty empty in the brain, both in dealing with women and other human beings and generally knowing about news or politics. Whereas Albert Brooks is the guy no one's ever going to call the most handsome, but he's super smart. He's a really good field reporter, and he's a damn good writer. And the news, this is right when news is leaving people like that behind and embracing the beautiful people with nothing between their ears for ratings and ad dollars and what have you. And there's that brilliant exchange outside that party where Albert Brooks says to him, "Can you name all the members of the cabinet?" And William Hurt goes, "Yes, I can." And he goes, "All 12? And he goes, "Yes, all 12. And Albert Brooks goes, "There's only 10. And William Hurt goes, "You're feeling pretty good about yourself right now, aren't you?" He's like, "I'm starting to." Their rivalry and ultimate friendship, I think, is kind of what drives the whole thing for me. It's just that they are sort of opposite ends of the same coin, opposite sides of the same coin. And anyway, I just love this movie.
Albert Brooks is in love with Holly Hunter. It's unrequited, and there's the that point where she wants to go and see William Hurt, and he's like, "I wish there were two sides out there. One was it? I want to be one side to be your friend, and the other side to be the one that knows how much I love you and stuff like that. Because we have two things going on at once. That's how that line goes. What is that?
It is. I wasn't looking it up, but no, you're close.
It's unrequited the whole time, right? They never get together.
But I mean,
he kisses her once, and then he's drunk, and she didn't ask for it. And he backs away and goes, "Well, I felt something," and then she starts laughing.
Yeah, but yeah, it's unrequited the whole time. It's one of those type of relationships that if you saw them together, you'd think, oh, well, they probably like married or something like that. But no, there's definitely no interest on her part. But yeah, it's a great look into news in general. I think this the point where Hurt says something like, because Holly Hunter's been feeding him all these lines the entire time, and then he says it right out on they even have a big seduction scene essentially talking about how that this is like great sex, like you feeding that into my ear and me coming out with, But like, there's that point where he loses her or whatever, and he ends up having to say something. He's like, "In other words, I think we're okay." And Robert Prosky's like, "Who the hell cares what you think?" The Albert Brooks, when he does get a chance to get on the news, is great too. It's one of those all timers. Can't recommend broadcast news enough. Then Burn After Reading. Another good one. Coen Brothers.
This movie fucking rocks.
You should be concerned about the state of your shit.
Oh man. It's a cartoony movie, but it works on a practical level too.
Yeah.
Right? It is like Brad Pitt's a total cartoon. George Clooney and his sex dungeon are a total cartoon, right? Like every lady, three billboard, Frances McDormand.
You did it me.
Frances McDormand is a total cartoon because she's saving up to get this procedure. I don't even know what the procedure is.
I know.
Yeah.
Malkovich is just filled with this rage. Like, I love every fucking bit of this movie.
Yeah. It's one of those that somehow I didn't catch it till far later. It came out in that stretch near enough.
Yeah, me too.
Intolerable cruelty that I was just like, I don't think that's one of the good ones. And I never got around to and then when I watched it, I was like, what the fuck? Nobody talks about this movie. It's awesome.
Oh my God. This is definitely in the top half of Coen Brothers movies with me, and one of my favorite comedies from them. It will make you. It's probably the straightest comedy that they've ever done, and it'll absolutely kill you. It's great.
The essential plot of this is that Frances McDormand and Brad Pitt, they found this like hard drive or something like that they think is a big deal. And then they try to sell it, or they try to blackmail with it. But then, so I don't know if Malkovich doesn't even know what it is either, right?
No, it isn't his memoir.
But but he doesn't know that it's the memoir that's on the hard drive.
Right. He just says you're shit. So he actually thinks it's something more important.
So it's based on all this big misunderstanding, and like, in true Coen Brothers fashion, they make this into a whole big thing that it should have never been in the first place. But it's pretty great.
Clooney's performance, this and Oh Brother, I think are his most straight up comedic performances, because he's very overly exaggerated in this too. Yeah, and the reveal of what he's been working on for Francis McDormand,
it's so
just the
great.
funniest fucking
I
shit.
know, it's so great. And this also has one of the biggest surprise deaths.
Yes, it does.
Ever in a movie. And it's done in would you say a weirdly comedic way? Like, it's almost funny, but that's so brutal at the same time.
Well, there's two. There's one that is subsequent to that's almost as brutal, and it's almost as funny too. I think it's played for laughs. It's shocking, and then you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's hilarious, the characters that are involved with it too.
Yeah. Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Just watched this 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
I'm starting to like it.
Okay.
Well, I should say I've always liked it. I think the expectations were built up so much when I went to see it in the theater that, it didn't quite live up to it. And then the next time I watched it, I was actively disappointed. And so me and my son and my wife are going through all the MCU again and watched it again. It's enjoyable. It's not perfect. Yeah. But it's my favorite of the Captain America films.
No, I like it too. But people were very quick to rush and say this was the best one of all time, and you still have people saying that. And I cannot agree with just the way a lot of this action is staged that's in this thing. I do like all the little, the sort of the roots of this conspiracy and everything that they've built in here, which sort of infected the rest of the you always have to think about this, that Hydra is now part of this, and of course then both of the Hydra and Shield are no more anyway, right? But just the fact that are they I do like what it sets up. I just don't. I'm not of the mind that it's one of the best ones. It'd be in middle of the pack for me.
The problem for me is that I guess I just feel like the good ones always get a half letter grade higher from the public than I think it is. So I never thought Winter Soldier was a turd. I did always like the sort of spy elements of it that they added in that a lot of superhero movies haven't had. I will never connect to Bucky as a character or his character being a major motivation. That's another big part of the problem for me. I did just read this morning, though, that Chris Evans not only said the elevator fight is his favorite MCU scene, but it was the very first scene he shot on this movie and the very first scene he ever shot with the Russo brothers, which I think is pretty goddamn impressive. Given how good ultimately, I think there's probably 3 or 4 cuts in that scene that I would not make or would prefer not to be there, but that scene's fantastic.
It's perfect
for them to come in on the first day and just knock that shit
hilarious.
Out. That's rad.
What's interesting about that scene? I always get like kind of my hair standing up on my arm when he gets into that elevator. Yeah, especially because I knew they hadn't seen it before. Right, so I was like, oh shit! and what's really cool about that is the pacing before the fight, where they get on nonchalantly on the next floor. There's just 3 of them. And, he's just like, all right. And then he looks and he sees like a gun or the top of that little stun thing in the dude's pocket. And he's like, all right. And it gets on. And then the other guys in suits get on. Yeah. And he's like, okay. And then he sees the guy's sweat. And he was like, all right. And then he makes the line. It's so good.
Yeah.
I think also this movie was almost ruined for me because of how everybody was saying this was like the conspiracy thrillers of the 70s, especially with the inclusion of Redford in here. And so a lot of people were like, this is like 3 Days of the Condor. This is like the Parallax View. There's all sorts of, and yeah, there's some like tiny salt and pepper elements of that in there, but it's still a Marvel movie in the end.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I think my expectations were too high, and that's on me. And I think now that it's had plenty of time to dry.
It's on the world, Barrett. It's on the world, because stop making these big pronouncements about what a movie is before people even go in to see it.
Yep.
Then there is Charlie Wilson's War. This is also written by Aaron Sorkin.
Ooh, this got a lot of good people working.
I only saw it the once, but I remember thinking this is pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah.
It's basically the idea that one guy that you've never heard of in Washington has the right relationships and committee assignments to be able to funnel money towards what ultimately becomes his pet project. But it's a pretty, I guess, ultimately frightening comedic look at the inside of how politics works. But I enjoyed it.
Does the movie sympathize with him? I saw this when it came out. I don't remember a whole lot about it. Do they make him a hero?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because at the time, he's arming the Mujahideen, right? So like he's arming the right people against the Soviets. Obviously, that didn't work out ultimately too well. But the movie's saying in its time, this is the correct decision, right?
Yeah, well, that was the vibe I got.
Okay.
It reminded me a lot of Lincoln, in the sense that shady politics are okay when your cause is good, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Which is not how I view the real world, but I'll tell you what the movie is.
Right.
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
I do remember there being an awesome Philip Seymour Hoffman scene in this movie. I don't remember anything he says. I just remember it's a big, long, like probably 2 pages worth of course it's Sorkin. But it's him going off on somebody, and it's great.
This is a movie that I need to watch again. This was 2010? 2000. Oh, wow. Okay. And it was Mike Nichols' last movie, I think.
His last one?
His last one. But yeah, it's been now 12 years, so I need to go back and watch it, because when I was looking down the list and prepping this, I was like, holy shit, everybody I love is in this.
Yeah, I also I have to confess that for about a decade, Charlie Wilson's War and Larry Crown were just the same movie.
Yeah.
I literally didn't know there were two. I thought they were the same movie.
Yeah, they made Larry Crown basically because Hanks and Roberts had not been in a movie together, and they were the biggest stars of the 90s, and then they came out with a movie in like 2006.
Good timing, fellas.
Whatever that year was.
Yeah, Charlie Wilson's War was his final feature. He did do Angels in America and a few other TV things.
All right. And then we have Clear and Present Danger. We're back in the Jack Ryan, Tom Clancy.
Not really. I would rather watch this than Patriot Games if I had to choose between
Clear and Present Danger is basically the drug one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are a couple of great scenes in this, though. I love the guy that they get. He's the guy who's training at the beginning, and he's like hitting the targets. He's like running around in like the field or whatever, and he's like poking out of the field and like hitting these targets, and they're like, where the fuck is he? They're all like looking at it in the binoculars and everything. I can't remember what his name is, the character. Or the
it's
actor.
probably Ding in the thing. Is he Hispanic?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Sting Chavez.
Yeah. And then the scene where they bomb the compound is a great scene.
Oh yeah, because not even sure. Well, ultimately he's not there, is he? Doesn't he get
away?
No,
he's not. And then there's an investigation not only from the drug lord, but there's an investigation from the CIA, and they both come up with the same conclusion that since there are no bomb fragments, that it had to have been an American. I think it's something like that.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember what it was, but they both come to the same conclusions at the same time. It's one of those like cross-edited type of things where who's the main guy? His name is the drug dealer's name.
Oh, Hispanic Phil Hartman.
Yes.
The character name or
the actor's name?
There's Miguel Sandoval, and then there's Joaquim de Almeida.
Yeah, Joaquim de Almeida is the guy. He used to see him in a lot of stuff. You still see Miguel Sandoval in a lot of things, but Joaquim de Almeida is the guy that you see.
You did see him in
Saw
everything.
him in a lot of stuff back in this day.
Yeah,
I'm sure he still pops up and stuff. He might be like older now, and you've seen him like in 50 movies, but you just didn't know it was him. Or maybe he was Phil Hartman.
Whoa.
He was in Fast Five.
Maybe he wasn't Phil Hartman.
Oh yeah, he was in Downsizing. That's what I remembered him from.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Recently.
But yeah, I liked it okay. But once the Hunt for Red October came out, you sort of had to compare it to
It's like
every one of those.
It's like being fucked by the biggest dick, and then everything else is just not going to fill the void. Right?
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
You are absolutely right.
Oh, man.
Speaking of which, Collateral Damage. Oh,
Is this the Schwarzenegger?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I saw it. Don't remember much about it.
Yeah, same here.
Which one was this? Collateral Damage. He's a guy that knows how to shoot a gun. And he goes after people for wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
This is pre-Governor Schwarzenegger.
Yep. Almost just very right on the tail end of it, right?
Yeah, and his movies were sort of falling out of fashion already because he had done End of Days and he did what else was there in this?
The clone one, The Sixth Day.
Oh, The Sixth Day.
Well, Eraser, I guess, was earlier on.
Eraser was in the 90s, but really, yeah, about that point, that's where it started going down. Because True Lies was sort of the top, and then it just started to kind of go down from there. Then we have The Contender. This was Rod Lurie.
I never saw this.
Of Last Castle fame.
Yes.
It's about it. So Joan Allen is this. I'm trying to remember. Is she running? She's running for president, or
so the vice president dies.
Okay,
and Jeff Bridges is the president. And he's looking to see who he should appoint to the vice presidency, and he wants to appoint the first woman.
Okay,
and so he's nominating her, but his political rival
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman, of course, with an American accent.
Yeah,
is trying to nominate his pet project. Basically.
And
is that also a woman, or is it?
No, it's a man.
So Gary Oldman's thing is to find all these things from her past that discredit her, which is, she was at a flag burning back in the 70s or something like that.
Remember when that used to be a big deal?
I do.
It's even a big deal in American President that she burned her bra.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, in this one, I don't know if you're getting to it or not, but she was in an orgy. When she was in college.
Yeah.
And there's pictures of it.
Yeah, and there's like a scene where she says, "You're trying to say that I'm not qualified because I had some sex," and he's like, "Deviant sex." And he's like, "Who says?" And he goes, "I do."
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's exactly so the deal is, this movie's fucking awesome. This movie is really, really good.
This is why Rod Lurie was supposed to be a golden boy, was The Contender, and it was a point where it looked like he might be a next big thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved this movie when it came out.
Yeah, it's good.
The fact that, and it's so relevant today, the fact that they're even asking these questions about her, uncovering her past and stuff like that, she doesn't want to engage. She said, this has nothing to do with my political career. This has nothing to do with my ability to be a vice president. I'm not even going to entertain the question itself. It ends up being a nice little switcheroo at the end, and Jeff Bridges gets a really nice speech at the end. I wonder who wrote this.
Did they find the orgy pictures from Gary Oldman's past? Is that how it works out?
They found
the orgy
something like that. Something like that. It was written by Rod Lurie too.
Wouldn't it have been nice if they could have ended the movie with like the moral being, it's no big deal, instead of, we also found dirt on the other guy and it's even worse dirt.
Well, yes. It's a necessary reveal though.
Okay, I'm the guy who hasn't seen the movie. You should probably just tell me to shut up.
It's a necessary reveal, but no, I think it makes both points. Is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And the cast is really good. In addition to Gary Oldman, Joan Allen, and Jeff Bridges, Christian Slater's in there, Sam Elliott, William Peterson, Saul Rubinek, Philip Baker Hall, and Robin Thomas and Catherine Morse. This is a very, very good movie. High recommend from me.
Yeah, there's also a point too where like they say it's like, who's going to listen to you talking to Gary Oldman? He's like, why would they listen to you? He's like, because I'm going to have a very big microphone in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gary Oldman is almost the same type of villain that Richard Dreyfuss is in American President. And in fact, after the movie was made and was finalized and everything, he said something like, you cut out all the parts where I gave depth to that character and all that. And I think everybody was kind of like, would anything add depth to that character? He's so very one note and like very, I just want to take Joan Allen down. Yep. And so, but yeah, this is a good one. Damn Yankees. I've never seen this.
Oh, you haven't? This is a baseball movie.
Me neither.
This is 1950s. Let me pull it up just real quick.
Is it Jerry Lewis?
No, it's
Why do I think Jerry Lewis was in it?
No.
Maybe is he in another movie with Yankee in the title?
Is
he in Yankee?
No, it's Tab Hunter and Gwen Verdon and Ray Walston.
Never mind.
This was 1958. Yeah, so it's a musical about the Washington Senators who can never beat the Yankees.
All right.
All right. And so it's a Faustian thing where the manager, the player or the manager says, I'd sell my soul to beat the Yankees one day.
Okay.
And so he does. And he becomes, it must be the manager because he becomes young and fit and actually starts playing in the field too. And his wife becomes young and beautiful, and they have all these success. They beat the Yankees, then they go to get the pennant, and then they go to the playoffs, and he retracts the deal somehow. And even in his flabby state, he still makes the game-winning catch to beat the Yankees.
It's like a way it's like a way better Mr. Destiny.
Yes, it is.
How did How did they beat the Yankees and then end up winning the pennant and playing against the Yankees?
They won the regular season pennant.
But so it was not the World Series?
Yeah, it wasn't the World Series.
I see.
It actually ends right before the World Series.
Yeah, in baseball movies, I think like sort of remember the championship series stuff only started in 1969.
Right.
And we got wild card stuff in the 90s. So the idea of playoffs to get to the World Series was not a big thing. So winning the pennant in a lot of these baseball movies are like are bigger than winning the World Series.
Okay, so that's what I meent. He makes that catch to win the pennant. Then they go to the World Series.
Because like in the natural, the big hit the baseball into the lights and the fireworks show and all that. That's to win the pennant. They have more games to play after that. Then we have another great one, Dave.
Yes.
This is Ivan Reitman.
Yes.
Kevin Kline plays a president who's like just a downright dirty dog, man. Cheating on his wife, Sigourney Weaver.
He is. There's nothing good about this dude.
No, not at all. He is an asshole. But meanwhile, there's a guy who looks exactly like him. That
played by Danny Glover.
Yeah, played by Danny Glover. Danny DeVito. But there's a point where while this guy is fucking around on Sigourney Weaver, he has a heart attack and they wheel him out and he's like to the point of death. But because the powers that be want to still remain in power and they don't want some other asshole being the president, the vice president being the president, they go and try to find his doppelganger, and they do.
Oh, Ben Kingsley is the vice president.
Ben Kingsley.
Right? And they send him to fucking Africa, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he's actually already in Africa at the start of the movie, and that they pin this shit on him right before he gets back.
Oh,
it's
that's right.
Frank Langella who's the bad guy.
Yep.
Yes,
and
he is.
the dad from Transformers.
Kevin
Dunn.
Yes, chief of staff or whatever.
Yeah.
Ving Rhames, one of the first movies I ever saw him in. He's a Secret Service agent. This is a fantastic movie. It's a ridiculous premise, obviously, but again, a nice, fun. It's like a fish out of water in reverse, like taking a commoner and putting him into this the White House, a place
Yeah.
that you never ever get to see. And it's just Kevin Kline. I wonder how much this movie would even work if it was a different kind of comic, because most of the laughs are so much like Kevin Kline's tone and style.
Yeah.
Bonnie Hunt is in this movie as the tour guide. Just delightful.
Charles Grodin plays one of his buddies that helps solve the entire budget process.
And he
Like
also
in an
sandwiches,
afternoon.
yeah, and he loves bratwurst.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like it's that fantasy you were talking about with American president and all that. It's a guy who cares about us, and not only that, has the power to just in an afternoon figure out the entire United States budget
And gets a round of applause
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah, at the table, and is able, all right, we'll all sign off on this. It doesn't require Congress or anything. But it's fun. It's a fun movie.
Oh, yeah, man.
Love Dave.
My favorite part is when the first lady figures out that it's not her real husband, and they go out on the town together. They like go out and like they use like some tunnels, like the Truman tunnels or whatever. They go out and they get pulled over by a cop later on, and they have to pretend to be impersonators, even though Dave is an impersonator. Sigourney Weaver is actually the first lady, and they sing "Tomorrow" from Annie. This is part of our act. Tomorrow.
Oh my God!
It's so
Yeah,
when
freaking
she
funny.
chimes in, she's like, he's like, how we're working on
I always wonder. I know we're supposed to think that Kevin Kline merely looks like the actual
Right.
the guy he's playing as the president, but this guy, it's not a look alike. It's a guy who looks is that person. Like there's you don't see doppelgangers that look this close,
right? Yeah.
No, this
There's
is like
always-
a three identical stranger situation.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why there's always those fun debates about Friends, where like Bruce Willis is on the show, guest stars on the show. They've been talking about Die Hard forever, and no one ever brings up the point that Bruce Willis looks like fucking Bruce Willis. Yeah, man, Dave is such a fun movie. I looked at the IMDb. It's lower than I thought it would be. I think it's
really?
like 6.7 or something like that.
It's a shame.
Which I don't understand that.
No, there's a lot of great cameos from real life politicians and media members from DC reporting on this fictional president. There's like that round table discussion. What's the name of that show?
Oh, McLaughlin Group.
McLaughlin Group. Yeah, and there's famous politicians in the audience when he gives like a press briefing.
There's a great Oliver Stone cameo in
Oh,
it too,
yeah, I forgot
where he
about
was
that.
like, he's like after the heart attack, this is what what he looks like. Blah blah blah. So you saying this is a conspiracy? Oh yes, I think this is a conspiracy.
It is 6.8, but it's 95% overall on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, the 95% on Rotten Tomatoes is the right score.
Yeah.
The Day After Tomorrow. We talked about 2012 already.
We can just move on.
Yeah.
I've also seen this movie about 10 times.
All right. If you have a disaster movie thing, that's different.
This is better than 2012.
I'm trying to think. I think I like the story. I think I like the story better.
Uh-huh.
I think I like Cusack's I think I like the performances better in 2012 because Jesus Christ, I don't know what's going on with Dennis Quaid and Jake Gyllenhaal. Normally two very good actors, even this early on.
Yeah.
But they're awful in this. I think Celia Ward plays his mom. Amy Rossum, God bless her, plays the girlfriend. But
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. I would like to know if there's anybody out there who has watched Day After Tomorrow, 2012, and Geostorm back to back. And can they tell which scene is from what movie?
I could totally tell. Now, I've only seen Geostorm like twice now. But I watched it so closely that I think
Sounds like that game I saw someone playing on Twitter with The Rock in a beige shirt, and you have to guess which movie it's from. Because it's either a beige button shirt or a soiled white T-shirt that looks yellow. And there's like 7 or 8 of them, and you can't tell which one's which. It could be any of them.
I guess it's glib. I guess it's kind of glib to say that.
no, there's a ton of overlap.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if you showed me like
Don't
an
show any
overhead
actors.
shot. Yeah, if you show me an overhead shot of the Earth.
Yeah,
it would
like
be
I mean, if you
difficult.
see something with John Cusack in it, it would be ridiculous for you to say that it was Geostorm. But
yes, they get chased by ice in this movie.
yes, they do.
and they beat it.
Yeah. Movie we briefly talked about earlier, Dick. Dan Hedaya is Richard Nixon, but more importantly, Kirsten Dunst and Michelle Williams are the ones who turn Watergate on its head.
Do you like this movie?
Yeah.
I kind of like this
kinda
movie.
fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. They take weed cookies to him.
Mm-hmm.
Her brother makes weed cookies, and they
Oh,
take him
that's
to the president,
right.
and he
Yeah.
gets stoned.
And I think it's Will Ferrell who plays Woodward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Will Ferrell plays Woodward, and it's Kids in the Hall. Bruce McCullough.
Oh, Bruce McCullough plays
Bernstein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a scene too where they talk about where they were talking about Deep Throat or whatever, and Woodward says something to the effect of why should you get credit for this? I'm the only one who knew what that reference meant, or sorry, I'm the one who saw that movie or whatever. I can't remember, but yeah, Dick's a fun movie.
It
I
is.
mean, it's again. With we were just talking about how it sort of makes this whole thing with Watergate funny.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's not funny at all.
Yeah.
It's who plays Gordon Liddy? Oh, Harry Shearer plays Gordon Liddy.
Oh yeah.
And there's a bunch of kids in the hall. Dave Foley's in this. Oh, is Halderman.
Dick. This was during Kirsten Dunst's comedy phase because she made that beauty show movie at the same time. Around the same time this one came out.
Well, you know what? God bless her because she's funny.
She is. And then she did the cheerleading movie too, which is I think a comedy.
And that's a fun movie too.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Bring it on. The first of many.
Yeah, there's like 9 of those things.
There's a lot more than you think there are. There's like Bring It On 2, then Bring It On All or Nothing, then Bring It On Again, then Bring It On Up and Down, then bring it on Parallel Bars.
She deserves to like have her personality come out more often. She went super drama. She did the Melancholia with Lars von Trier.
Oh, yeah.
She did what were those other like real like real grungy or like
She did The
dramatic-
Beguiled.
She did The Beguiled. Obviously, she was in Spider-Man.
She's got a brief appearance. Well, I guess it's more than brief appearance in Hidden Figures.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But I agree. She's good. She's got 83 credits. by
She
the
came
way.
back to
Wow.
comedy a little bit with that second season of Fargo.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
But more of that, and that's also where she met her husband.
Who's her husband?
Jesse Plemons.
Oh my God, that's an adorable couple.
Sure is, isn't it?
Oh,
There's even in that Black Mirror episode, I think she shows up briefly. Isn't that the rumor?
Really?
She shows up in a cameo in the background or something.
oh, I gotta watch that. I actually was watching that again. Just recently.
I honestly couldn't tell if the article was joking or not, but I read an article yesterday that said Jordan Peele said his cameo in Get Out he was the voice of the deer. And in Us, he was the voice of one of the dying rabbits.
Oh, really? See, I thought he was the voice of the Funhouse narrating. the guy.
Oh wow!
That's who I thought. But I mean, you never know. But I thought it was him. I thought that was him.
I can't stop looking at that poster.
It's a pretty damn good
That's
poster.
so fucking great.
Then we have The Distinguished Gentleman. We briefly mentioned that.
Florida in the house. He comes from Florida, by the way.
He comes from Florida,
And he wins. Why does he win? Do you remember? Do you remember
He
why
wins
he even comes on the radar?
because he takes the name of the dude
Exactly.
that died. Right?
Yes, the guy died, and he changes his name to that guy's name, thinking people will just vote for this guy's name.
and they do.
And they do. And he ends up in Washington, D.C., where everything is corrupt, and the dad from Son-in-Law is a dickhead.
Yeah.
Oh, Lane Smith, right?
Yeah. I really like this movie. I have not seen it in probably 12 years or more.
This is very much a Trading Places type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Because once he gets to D.C. and sees how he's a con man, and once he gets to D.C. and sees how corrupt it is, he uses his con ability for good, right?
Yeah.
Just like he does in Trading Places.
Yeah.
No, this is right in the wheelhouse. It's not nearly as good as something like Coming to America, or even Bowfinger.
Blowfinger.
Bowfinger.
I don't remember anything about this movie. I know I saw it too.
It's not. Again, you could double feature this shit with Evan Almighty, although Evan Almighty is a much worse movie. But you've got your same kind of cliche, idyllic Congress bill that he wants to support that the evildoers are going to push out for their own bill that will make them rich and line their pockets. And like you said, he has to use his con man.
Did you say Evan Almighty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the parallel?
He's
also a
Steve
congressman.
Carell becomes a congressman in Evan Almighty.
God, I didn't even remember that.
Well,
Yeah.
you would not be blamed.
All I remember was the Noah's Ark stuff.
Yeah, no, he leaves the TV station, becomes a congressman, and very much like Eddie Murphy in this, he goes in with big dreams and realizes how corrupt the system is. And if he can't get it uncorrupted, God's going to send the flood.
All right. Here's a all-time classic, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
Where does this rank on your Kubrick list?
It's probably either 1 or 2.
It challenges for 1?
Yes.
Wow. I'm not saying anything about it, but
you realize that I think of comedies in a higher
sure.
I put them higher than most people do.
This is the only comedy he did, right?
I really think The Shining.
Yeah, Shining does have a lot of funny moments.
I guess it is the only comedy he did.
I mean, there's humor inherent in R. Lee Ermey and Full Metal Jacket,
Yeah,
but that's not a comedy.
Yeah, I think this was really sort of his only attempt at one.
It's almost a crime he didn't do more.
Yeah, it is, and it's either this or 2001.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's probably Shining and Clockwork.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Dr. Strangelove, first off, yes, you have 3 great performances from Peter Sellers.
It's amazing.
And just the sort of the paranoia between the U.S. and Russia about who's going to fire first and all that builds to this great plot of just ridiculousness that occurs. The Americans are going out and they're in airplanes and everything. So you have Slim Pickens and a very early appearance from James Earl Jones.
Yep.
And they're going to try to hit their one target, but they aren't able to hit the one target, so they decide to go to the other target. But the Sterling Hayden character tells them they have a failsafe in place to say don't drop the bomb.
Right.
But the failsafe is such so that they can't unlock it and tell the pilots not to drop the bomb.
Right. And I think there's a communication error, right? Like that once the orders are given erroneously,
yes,
they can't communicate with them anymore and tell them not to do this.
So there's a code that they have to crack to tell the pilots not to do it anymore. But it's with Sterling Hayden, who has gone completely crazy in this. He believes that the Russians are after our bodily fluids. And Peter Sellers, playing in one of his many roles, is trying to get the code out of him during this entire, when time is as of the essence. Meanwhile, he's also playing the president in the war room. And he's trying to tell this Russian president, we didn't mean to do this. We're very sorry. Blah, blah, blah.
He's so perfect.
He's like, well, nobody feels more bad about it than me, Dimitri.
Oh, it's so great.
Peter Sellers also plays a guy who has defected from the German government, and he still worships Hitler essentially. But he is on the American side.
That's the titular Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah, that's Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah.
So you have some Russian embassy people also in the war room at the same time. And so there's all this there's all sorts of spy shit going on. There's all sorts of there's everything. This movie is so good on so many levels. And it's hard to start going where to start on the movie itself, because there's about 3 or 4 different things going on at once.
Yeah,
you have the pilots, you have the war room, you have the Sterling Hayden stuff. So yeah, it's a very complex but very well done satire.
It's so beautiful. And we haven't even mentioned George C. Scott yet.
Yeah.
And what was the story? So he didn't know that he was in a comedy?
He didn't know he was in a comedy.
But he's acting so comedic,
I
so
don't understand.
over the top.
Never have understood this story, by the way.
That's unbelievable.
There's a part even when George C. Scott gets up to walk and falls down and gets up and keeps talking like nothing's happened. And he claims that he didn't think that Kubrick would use the take because it was too ridiculous. And it turns out to be one of the best parts of that movie.
Oh my god! What were you going to say?
I was going to say, did you guys see the trailer for Clooney's Catch-22 series?
Oh, is it out?
Well, the trailer's out.
Oh wow!
Well, actually, I saw it in a theater. Must have been before Captain Marvel.
Okay.
I liked that book.
I did too.
I didn't love
Joseph
it.
Keller?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did not like the movie.
No, I did not either.
You mean the Alan Arkin 60s?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But I just seen the trailer for this series of it that Clooney's putting together, and he's also co-starring in. I am now very, very interested. Looks like they may have captured that tone correctly.
Yeah.
It'd be difficult. It'd be very difficult. Even getting through that book is difficult if you're not ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the main thing in Catch-22? The main Catch-22 is that these pilots don't want to go out on these missions anymore.
Mm-hmm.
To go out on the missions, you have to be declared sane, but to go on these missions is insane.
Right.
But they can't call them insane. I can't. What's the main Catch-22 there?
Isn't that it? That you can't. To sign up for this, you have to be
totally insane.
Totally insane,
but you have to be sane.
sane.
You have to be declared sane to go out on the missions. Anyway, Dr. Strangelove, like I said, it's hard to get into all the different details without really just going through the entire movie.
Yeah, you should watch this movie.
You should definitely watch it.
It's still on Netflix. It was on Netflix for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something that should immediately be in your canon. Even these days, and maybe even especially these days, the last time I watched this was about 3 years ago or so, and it was funny. Now, it may be a little bit...
It's on the nose.
too on the nose.
But, yeah, there's I love this whole part, though, where they're just assuming that all the nukes are going to get shot because of all this misunderstanding and everything. And they're like, well, now we're going to be we've built mine shafts where we're going to send everybody down there. We're going to send all the important people down there. And there's going to be 10 females for every male.
Yeah.
And they're all going to have to be very sexually attractive and all that. And then they said something about, I can't remember if they're going to try to get it done within 10 years or something, or try to get everybody down there in 10 years or something. George C. Scott he's like, wait a minute, what if the Russians have already done this and they've already built better mine shafts than we've built, and we say, what, we're going to have to start on ours earlier than them, so that they can't have the advantage over us and everything. And he's like, Mr. President, we cannot allow a mine shaft gap, because they keep talking about the nuclear gap and all these different, like, the differences between the countries and like who's got the edge and everything. And it's always talked about the gap, and we can't talk. He's like, we cannot allow a mine shaft gap.
Got one of the best endings of all time. So
yes.
you got like in triplicate in each of the places. So you've got Slim Pickens riding the bomb on the way down because he had to manually override it. He's going riding that shit like a cowboy. And then you've got when it does explode, you've got the "We'll Meet Again" montage of all the things happening. And then when you go to the end shot of the war room, you get Dr. Strangelove standing up from his wheelchair, and he's like, "Mein Führer, I can walk!" So great.
And then there's just this cascade of nuclear explosions. Cannot recommend Dr. Strangelove enough. And holy shit, we've been through a lot of great movies.
I know,
and we're just now getting through the D's. All right, so the next one on this one, I know Jeremy would love to talk about. Enemy of the State.
Ooh, baby.
Tony Scott.
This is some, I think Tony Scott, history may remember him as the maker of some of the most watchable movies ever.
Could be.
And I don't know that very many of them would be awards worthy.
No.
But from this to Deja Vu, which I was talking about recently, to Crimson Tide, this dude just made shit that you enjoyed watching. This movie's preposterous, not so much anymore. I think the technology displayed in this movie when it came out was preposterous. If this movie came out today, I think a lot of it would seem fairly believable and plausible in terms of how they're able to track him, mostly using satellites.
Biometric stuff too, right?
No, not in this. I don't think so. They drop they actually bug him in like 6 different places.
Okay, yeah.
But before that, they're using satellites, and it's just zoom and enhance on crack.
Yeah.
But it's super fun. There's a lot of great Berkey dialogue back and forth. I've mentioned before, all of the evil techies are famous people that are super young in this. So Jack Black, Seth Green, James Caan's kid is somewhere in here.
Jake Busey, Scott
Busey,
Conn, Jason Lee.
and it's just chock full of little, not yet famous people that would go on to be more famous.
Anna Gunn.
Yeah. I don't remember where she's in. Lisa
Reynolds.
Bonet.
She's probably like Spectator #2 or something.
John Voight is the evil NSA
She's John Voight's
guy.
daughter, apparently.
Okay. So it's basically, if you've never seen it, Jason Lee is a nature photographer, as you do. And he goes around collecting his duck cameras, and on one of these duck cameras, he happens to catch a murder. And it's John Voight and his boys killing like a senator or somebody really important, and it gets covered up. And he's on the run, and they're coming after him, and he runs into Will Smith, old high school friend, like near a lingerie store, I think. He drops the tape in Will Smith's bag. Will Smith doesn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Lee runs outside, gets hit by a car, and dies. And then the NSA guys are reverse engineering where did he put the tape. They figure out it was Will Smith. Then it's on the run.
Yeah, it is.
Gene Hackman shows up. There's a cat. This movie's just rad. I can't recommend this movie enough.
It's sort of a mashup of blow up / blow out and The Conversation.
Yes.
And I don't know if you've seen any of the blow up or blow out.
I've seen Blowout and Conversation.
Okay,
Blow Up.
yeah, blow up is the one where the guy's taking pictures out and he gets something that he thinks is a murder. I've only seen Blow Up once. I don't know if he actually does or if he's just paranoid that he has. But in Blow Out, John Travolta has it's a recording of some sort. I can't remember if it's video or if it's just audio. But it's the same sort of deal. You have Jason Lee playing those characters, and then the whole big conspiracy thing starts up from there. But I only saw it the one time. I can't even remember if I liked it or not.
Oh, Sudden Gabriel Byrne.
Oh, yeah?
Really?
Gabriel Byrne's in this movie for like a minute and a half. I shit you not. He's a phony Gene Hackman. Like, he shows up pretending to be who Gene Hackman is to try and get Will Smith, and Will Smith figures it out just in time and gets away.
Wow. Fake Brill is how he's credited.
Yeah. Fake Brill. Exactly. Thank you for your day's work, Gabriel.
Lisa Bonet is in this. Is she his wife?
No, she's his ex-mistress. His wife is Regina King.
God, everybody's in this movie.
If you haven't seen it,
It's been forever. It's 98, I think.
It's probably a C+, B- in quality, A+ in entertainment value.
Yeah. I remember really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Then the aforementioned Eraser, which came out in 1996.
I remember kind of enjoying this.
I don't.
Did you have like a
remember
Vanessa Williams thing? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
but also, he's a CIA guy that like erases people. Like I think he arranges witness protection and all that stuff. And it was like you said, it was right before these things really started to tank for me. So
is there a nuke in this at some point?
There's this is the one with the fictional space laser gun, right?
Oh, it could be.
It's like he has like a green laser sniper rifle. Come on, man.
Seems like there's some
rifles?
sort of like special weapon in this of some sort.
Oh, electromagnetic pulse rifle.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Laser.
Laser.
James
Caan, James Coburn.
Yeah, James
Cromwell. All the James.
Yeah, James Caan is the bad guy in this, right?
Yeah.
But I don't remember it. I don't remember liking it.
Ain't nothing wrong with Vanessa Williams.
Nope.
Or
From
Vanessa.
a distance.
Oh,
Actually, that wasn't From a Distance. What did she do?
that was Bette Midler.
Yeah. What did
she did? I remember the music video. She's all in some snow and shit.
Save the best for last. You want to save the best for last.
Yep. Hey, she won. Didn't she win Miss USA?
She did.
Evan Almighty, also aforementioned Evan Almighty.
What a piece of shit that movie was.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, come on, man. Bruce Almighty, 2004?
No, Bruce Almighty was like 2000.
It was 2000.
And then Evan Almighty came out in like 2007 or 2008 or something.
So another awkward gap. You could tell they didn't put a lot of thought into the story, right? It was just, we have a bunch of effects that we can use. Funny person.
I goddamn guarantee you this is a case of where somebody had the script of a plucky new congressman
Mm-hmm.
and it fell to the studio that had the Bruce sequel rights, and Steve Carell was like, well, okay, I'll do it.
That's too plausible.
And
of
they
an
just
explanation.
rewrote it to be part of that universe.
Bruce Almighty was 2003.
Okay.
For some reason, I remember it being 2000 because I thought you and I were working together when that came out, but that was not the year we were not working together at that point. So there must have been some other Jim Carrey. I don't even remember what that would be though.
But what's crazy is that it ends up being more like it fits more in the Santa Claus universe than the Bruce Almighty universe, because he starts like getting old and gray haired and animals start showing up. Whereas like the first Bruce Almighty, it was you have the powers of God, now learn how to be a human.
Yeah.
And you could have done a sequel to that.
But he didn't change in appearance or anything like that.
No,
he just God.
I'm telling you, they had a whole other story, and they square pegged it into this round hole.
The only reason Bruce Almighty is watchable is Jim Carrey, because that movie, as I've discussed, is not a good movie. He's an asshole the entire time.
He is.
And it's overinflated in my mind, at least. Evan Almighty, I guess they were going for the same formula. They were like, well, the story really didn't matter in the last one because the guy was irredeemable essentially from the beginning. So let's just throw somebody funny in there. And Steve Carell was still on the ascent. This was after 40-Year-Old Virgin and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
So garbage.
I bet you
fire.
at some point they even thought, it really works out better that we got Steve Carell instead of Jim Carrey on this one, because at that point Jim Carrey probably wasn't as big a meteoric star as he was. Steve Carell was on the way. Made a turd movie.
Yeah. I mean, Steve Carell, that's the thing. You were talking about how in Bruce Almighty it's watchable because of Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey is a completely different comedian than Steve Carell is.
Yep. Absolutely, yeah.
And Steve Carell, when you put him in this thing that super hyper, realized, like, in Bruce Almighty, you need Jim Carrey.
He needs to play. Yeah, Steve Carell needs to play a character. He needs to play a Michael Scott or like a Andy from 40-Year-Old Virgin and stuff like that, and then put himself in that character. But Jim Carrey is Jim Carrey is Jim Carrey, right? Only when he started trying to do Andy Kaufman or stuff like that was he able to step out of that.
Yeah. Then we have Executive Decision.
Oh.
So look, I know there's going to be 1 million people in this that you want to rattle off. There's a ton for sure. This movie's terrible.
It's terrible. It's Air Force One without the president.
Yeah.
Only less quality.
Yeah, he's Kurt Russell is he's like a scientist, like a nuke scientist that he's trying to de-nuke the plane, right?
I don't know. I just know that they hijack the plane. Shit happens.
Seagal.
Yeah, Seagal like has the surprise death.
There's a plucky flight attendant.
Yeah, this is a bad
Was
movie.
Halle Berry the plucky flight attendant?
I think she was.
But
There's some B.D. Wong in here.
yeah, John Leguizamo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, this is Marla Maples Trump is in this.
Oh, nice.
Interesting.
But yeah, that's one of the funniest surprise deaths of all time. Kurt Russell is like, we're not gonna make it, and Steven Seagal's like, you are, and he like kills himself essentially so that they can live.
He was a big star still at this point, but he was such a punchline that everybody was like, yeah.
Then we have The Exorcist.
Oh my!
This is a very DC movie.
What?
This is a very DC movie.
I was thinking of DC Comics when you said that. It's only in DC because reasons, really.
Well, I guess.
Well, remember, we don't even remember how all this, the movie does not explain at all how the little tiki statue ends up
It does not.
in this house. And the only reason why Ellen Burstyn and Linda Blair are in there is because she's filming a movie, and they're renting this house out, and of course there's an evil statue in there.
Yeah, that part. It's such a weird. I still love this movie. I know that some people disagree with me. It's such a weird transition. This very creepy beginning when they're out in Iraq or something like that. On an archaeological dig, and it's Max von Sydow it uncovers this thing that's very unsettling, and then he takes it to his buddy, and then he gets unsettled again, and then he gets progressively unsettled, and he says, I gotta leave. But he left it with his buddy.
Yeah.
And then he has this weird standoff, and I realize he's going for atmosphere here. But he has this weird standoff with the giant statue, and then cut to Georgetown. It's Ellen Burstyn. Go.
Yeah, Ellen Burstyn basically doing another movie.
Yeah, doing another movie.
So she's in something. I don't know what it's called. Something like it's some sort
Student
of
protest
movie.
But it's great from that point on. I think it's absolute genius.
Yes.
It's shot beautifully. William Friedkin. The characters are fully realized. The father character is so brilliantly played.
Mm-hmm.
There's nuance to him. He's questioning his faith. He's a psychologist too. He's talking to his buddy about this. There's so much to like. That whole beginning though is so disparate that it's just it's weird.
It takes you out of it for a while.
Yeah.
But it's I wish if there was just a little bit of connective tissue, and I don't even think the director's cut addresses any of that.
I don't think because I've seen the director's cut. It does not.
Yeah, it doesn't address that transition at all. We're just supposed to, it just managed to find its way in a basement in Washington D.C.
Of course, I think there's also like 6 versions of this fucking movie.
Wait, did we ever figure out if that was the same thing that he found?
Yes.
Okay, because I don't know if I even verified that.
Well, because it's partially obscured when it shows that last shot at the bottom of the steps, it looks enough like it that it's got to be.
Okay.
But but from there, the effects, the stuff they did with Linda Blair, I think it's terrifying, especially the voice, especially the way that they present it. I think it's great.
You know what I found out in a very strange way the other day was that Linda Blair used to date Rick James.
Wow.
And the song Cold Blooded is about her.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The only reason I found this out was I was going through this backlog of Saturday Night Lives that had come on, that I have on my DVR, and I needed to get rid of some. Well, the one that they came out with after Carrie Fisher died was the 1978 when she was on Saturday Night Live. And they have a whole segment with her and Aykroyd, and Fisher and Aykroyd were nearly married at one point.
Oh, yeah.
But they had a whole segment, a whole skit on there where they're talking about where Carrie Fisher's playing Linda Blair, and how she apparently got into some sort of drug issue or something back in the 70s. And I was like, oh, really? I wonder if all this is based on real life stuff that they're talking about. And I started reading about Linda Blair, and through that I found that she dated Rick James.
Interesting.
Cold Blooded was about her.
She turned into a beautiful woman.
Oh yeah.
That's all I have to say about that, as you would say.
All right, Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Shockingly watchable.
Oh, I'm glad to hear you say that. Was there anything?
Was not expecting that at all.
I think it's more watchable than the first one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's 10 times more it's bad.
It is bad. Yes.
I don't want to give the wrong idea, but of the 3 Fantastic Four movies that have been made in the last 20 years, this is the only one I would want to watch again.
I agree.
Doesn't Lawrence Fishburne play the
yes.
Silver Surfer in this?
Oh no,
yeah, is he? Yeah, he voices the Silver
voices
Surfer.
him, but he's not
the dude,
low-capping him or anything.
No, it's
Doug Jones.
Doug Jones once again playing the shape.
The man shape. It does actually look very much like the Prometheus aliens in the beginning. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Again, I can't specifically say why. I think it's because we skip all the origin bullshit.
I think that's exactly why.
And it does something. Well, it does something what I think is ultimately fun, but also lazy, where it has them all trade powers. Because it creates this effect where it's almost like Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, where everybody gets to kind of play fish out of water for a little bit. And then I think they end up having to beat the big bad at the end while one or more of them has the wrong power.
I think so. And by that point, Silver Surfer has joined their cause.
Right.
Big bad is...
It's Dr. Doom again, right?
Dr. Doom, yeah. It's Bo Garrett.
Or Galactus.
No,
is Galactus coming behind Parallax?
Galactus is somewhere in here.
Yeah, it is a Parallax style.
Well, Galactus is
Julie
the
McMahon.
Devourer of Worlds, and
Yes.
he's coming, and Silver Surfer is his forebearer.
Right.
He comes to the world ahead of time, I guess, to announce it. Ladies and gentlemen, Galactus will be here in 1,000 years.
And
Here's my surfboard.
Isn't this something he's been doing with a lot of planets? He's been going to all these planets. Okay.
Yep. And it's he's an anti-hero, just like he is in the comics. He starts out a villain, ends up on their side. it's been on a few times in the last few years, and I've flipped by, and I'm not disgusted.
It's got the problem with that first one is that there's such big gaps in dialogue and in action and stuff like that, and it takes them so long to get their boner hard because like Johnny Storm is fucking like flying around. Sometimes he can get it up, sometimes he can't get it up, and then this one he's just full on mastery of his powers and having a fucking blast too.
Yep.
So I agree with you. I'm interested to hear somebody else kind of agree with that. But you're right, it is not good.
No.
Man, I the last time I saw it was when we sent it, and I don't remember enjoying myself one bit. Next one is A Few Good Men. We've obviously talked about A Few Good Men a lot, and I don't know if we need to talk more about it.
Probably
not. But
it's probably maybe the most DC movie here, because it shows all the monuments and all that stuff, but it also shows the periphery of it, like the courtrooms and the neighborhoods that have a possible amount of leaves even in September. It's just a warm and cozy, wonderful movie.
You're a real shitty baseball player, Jack.
Your boys are going down, Daniel. Nothing I can do about that.
Something that me and a coworker used to yell at each other all the time.
No, it's you're a lousy fucking softball player.
Lousy fucking softball player. There you go. Then there's First Kid. This movie came out in 1996, starred Sinbad. I don't remember anything. I don't know if I even saw it.
Wow. What's crazy is that there are still 2 more Child of the President movies to come after this.
Yeah.
Because there's First Daughter, and then there's the one. Mandy Moore's in one, Katie Holmes is in the other one.
Oh, yeah.
First Daughter.
First Daughter is one. I can't remember the other one.
Katie Holmes is in First Daughter.
Okay, so then Mandy Moore's in one. I'm pretty sure that's like the president's
No, you're right,
daughter.
and I don't remember what it's called.
And there's a TV movie Josh Childs always likes to sing the theme song to called My Date with the President's Daughter.
My
Date with the President's Daughter.
That's nice.
Chasing Liberty.
Chasing Liberty, because Liberty's her Secret Service call sign. And she likes to run away with boys.
Chasing Liberty.
Riding in cars with
what
boys.
You were saying about First Kid?
Well, yeah, I mean, Timothy Busfield. No, there's no big. Oh, Zachary Ty Bryant. I knew there was a Home Improvement
Is he
kid
the
in there.
main kid?
No, he's not. Brock Pierce is the kid.
Oh.
But Sinbad is the Secret Service guy that's assigned to him. And of course, he's super annoying at first, and then he comes to love.
Man, I would love one day to put all the posters of these movies that I consider these type of comedies, that like some of these are not related, but Milk Money and Blank Check and all these 90s. I want to put them all. How much white would you have? Like, I'm not saying like, obviously Sinbad's the star of this movie, but I'm talking about the actual color of the poster.
Oh yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much. Like, I went to go and look at this poster, and I was like, other than Sinbad, this whole thing is like freaking white.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and then they did that with Milk Money, and they did that with Blank Check, and it just Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
I mean, good God, like we could make a whole collage of just, Then we have, we're going to round this episode off with Frost Nixon, Ron Howard's movie about the interviews that Nixon did after he was president. I believe it's the Sheen guy. The Sheen guy. Michael Sheen. Because every time I want to say Martin Sheen.
I do too.
I want to say it. I know
time.
it's Michael Sheen. I say Martin Sheen every time. Michael Sheen. This time again, Frank Langella is playing Nixon, and it's about basically the run up to this, because this is where what's the guy's name? The interviewer, Frost. It's something Frost.
David Frost.
He's conducting these interviews that are essentially nothing burgers for a long time. Like, if you were to watch the whole thing, you would be like, wow, this is a seminal interview with the president? It's only at the very tail end that Frost actually gets Nixon.
He kind of A Few Good Men's him. I saw this like 6 months ago. It's good. I was riveted.
It is.
It's not great. But yes, he lands this interview, which is a huge get, because he's just this standard, British reporter. He's not like the Tom
British or
Brokaw at the
Australian?
time or whatever. Australian, British, whatever. It's the same. But you're right. It's all softball questions, because they're afraid of pissing him off and losing the interview. And then on the fourth and final day, he decides, from pressure, like constantly on his end, he decides to go for it. And he catches Nixon just off enough that Nixon starts defending himself and saying all this, like, incriminating shit about himself.
Oh, it's great. And the night before, or like a few weeks before or something like that, Nixon calls him drunk and is basically saying, you're not going to get this from me. Yep. I'm going to win this interview. Yep. I'm going to get the hearts and minds of the U.S. back, and just daring him.
Yep.
And probably, I mean, not rightfully so, because Nixon was an asshole, but he had him up until there. Mm-hmm. He had him where he had no leverage whatsoever. But then Frost goes back and like uncovers all these details that he can hit him with, that he's heretofore avoided, basically, and gets him to literally say, I cheated the American public.
Yeah.
I broke some laws and all this shit. And even he handles it beautifully at the moment.
Yeah.
But even he can't believe it at the end of it.
Yep.
Is it Sam Rockwell, the one who's trying to get him to ask the hard questions? There's somebody who's like very pissed off about how these interviews are going.
Yes.
And basically almost doesn't even want to be at the interviews because it's so softball.
Right. And then Oliver Platt is his chief of staff or whatever it is.
Who almost shuts it down.
Yeah. So, at least once.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I know that Rebecca Hall's in this briefly too. Mm-hmm. I think Frost dates her character for a little bit, but it's just all this sort of lead up. And yeah, it's fascinating that this really like just softball interview ended up being like, you know, the one time, I guess, the one time they got Nixon to actually say something.
I mean, this is the last time I'll make the parallel, but imagine this happening with Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Imagine some interviewer, because after he leaves office, whether it's next year or 4 years later, after he gets done, he's going to want to preserve that level of notoriety and fame and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And if, God forbid, for some people, he gets thrown out on his ass, he's definitely going to want to help rehabilitate his reputation, right? Mm-hmm. So he would totally agree to something like that. Imagine somebody getting him knocked off enough to where he starts admitting shit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how big this shit was, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's I do enjoy this movie. This may be towards the top of Ron Howard for me.
It's certainly because his bar is in the middle, right?
Yeah, so his bar is pretty meteor.
Yeah.
And I like the guy. But yeah, there's not a ton at the top.
And Langella plays Nixon more towards his mannerisms and isn't like a goofy impression.
He's not doing a voice. He's
kind of doing a voice, but he's not doing a voice.
He's not doing a Nixon voice.
Right.
He's acting. He's playing a character. He's not trying to do like you said, an imitation.
Okay, so we got through to the F's of Washington D.C.
F you, D.C.
This is probably going to be a series for D.C. I mean, a pretty. I guess we would probably get into 3 at least.
Yeah, probably so. But I when we were planning this out, there's so many good movies on this list that I just want to dive into. Dr. Strangelove is something that we've talked about before, but I could talk about that movie all day because there's so much to it.
Well, we've never had a chance to talk about Distinguished Gentlemen and Evan
right?
Almighty.
Yeah,
so DC needs to be repped.
Yep.
Yeah. That'll do it for this week. Keep going to SinCast presented by CinemaSins on Facebook and tell us what you thought about this episode. We have CinemaSins Twitter, Reddit, SoundCloud. We're on Discord. There are a lot of places to find us.
Thank you to everyone who came out to Sin Week last week.
Yeah.
Boy, how much fun was that?
Holy balls, that was fun.
Man, we destroyed the Fire Festival, didn't we?
Yes, we did, by merely having more than American slices of cheese.
We definitely had more than that.
First off, it was real. That was.
But we also did have Ja Rule, weirdly enough.
Oh, no, that was weird. That was cool when he came by and said, I hope everything goes well with your Sin Week. And he left after that, but it was really, it meant a lot.
I think he did an impromptu performance of I'm Real with J-Lo.
Mm-hmm. He did.
I don't know any other Ja Rule songs.
Yeah, J-Lo also showed up.
Oh yeah, by the way, J-Lo was there too. Ja and Jay.
But that'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Sher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit CinemaSins.com.
Man, you know what came on Sunday? My first, official day after Sin Week? Dead Again.
Ooh.
Which I had seen before back in my college days and loved, but probably hadn't even thought about until Jonathan brought it up on that podcast taping. And I watched that fucker from beginning to end. Surprise Robin Williams, by the way.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic.
Oh, I love Dead Again, man.
I cannot, that fucking scene with old Andy Garcia smoking a cigarette through his cancer hole.
No.
It's nightmare fuel.
I know.
But other than that, great fucking movie.
It's interesting, too, do you think about the chronology of this? Like, I don't know if I had ever seen that before, someone smoking a cigarette through their little whatever. But then, 3 years later, Clerks comes out, and there's a joke about someone smoking, and now he has a voice box, and now he smokes his cigarettes that way, and they're like, "Oh Jesus!" And I just immediately thought of that. But yeah, Dead Again's got one of the just one of those just. I don't think it did anything at the box office. I don't think it got any kind of following afterwards. But it's awesome.
Yeah, and that reveal midway through, that kind of wrinkle of what you think it is, and it's kind of that, but it's kind of the opposite of that. Mm-hmm. It's just like, what?
There's that point, too, because she keeps saying, I think you're Roman, or whatever, and then they finally actually start having sex or something, and she's like, "This is just like blah 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 and Roman," and he goes, "I'm not Roman."
Yeah.
I remember the trailer too, somewhat, because at the very end of it, it's Kenneth Branagh as Roman, or is he's Roman in the past, right? Or is he always Roman?
No, Roman is the past character.
Roman's the past guy. There's a point where I think they're about to execute him, and he's like, "All of this is far from over." And that's how they ended the trailer. And Robin Williams is definitely surprised Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see him in the trailer, but he's kind of it's that one scene, right? It's
there's actually a second quick scene where he comes back for clarification on one thing. But yeah,
okay.
just two conversations in the back of a grocery store.
Yeah.
It is unfair how good their American accents are, man.
Oh, you're not
I remember him on David Letterman, Branagh. I think it was Letterman, where Letterman asked, "How do you guys do that?" and everything, and he just went through a whole bunch of some of you like Robert De Niro, and they'll just imitate Robert De Niro or whatever, and then
It seems easier for them to do American than Americans to do British.
Yeah, well, Americans sort of go based off of one essential accent, it seems like, and then they base theirs off of that one, and they don't really try to get a dialect but the ones who do it really well, I think, tend to try to get an actual dialect.
Like that trailer for that waste of a movie that's the remake of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Like Anne Hathaway's English accent is probably going to be explained away as part of her character, as part of her long con. Sounded terrible as shit to me in that trailer.
What is this movie?
It's called Hustlers? The Hustle?
Is that what it's an official Dirty Rotten Scoundrels remake, right?
Yes, but they're not marketing it that way.
Okay, but they just named it something else.
Well, the tagline has the word scoundrels or dirty or rotten. One of the three.
And the trailer's out?
Yeah, I saw the trailer in front of Captain Marvel, I think. And it looks terrible. It's unnecessary. But my point is, Anne Hathaway is speaking with an English accent the entire trailer. And it's... shit. Fat Amy.
Oh, Rebel Wilson.
Rebel Wilson. Sorry, I think I just put both of you in a bad mood.
God damn. I mean, that's the best of that movie condensed into a trailer.
Well, and it doesn't even look like very good best.
No. There's there's no laugh in that. Are you constipated? How many times has that joke been
She's
made?
pretending to be blind, so she's grabbing her boobs.
Yes.
Get it?
Yes.
Get it?
It's amazing.
Chris and I have one thing in common, is that our nephews and nieces are far better people than we are.
That's very true.
Are we talking about us?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I guess I should have said during the panel when I said it didn't ultimately feel very much like a horror movie to me.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I was more interested to know what was going to happen next than I was particularly scared,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, I was flat out scared.
That's okay.
Mhm.
By the way, I watched Deja Vu again yesterday.
Did you really?
Well, most of it.
What? Oh, Tony Scott, right? Isn't
Tony
that who
Scott.
Yeah.
Jim Caviezel is evil in that movie.
He's evil.
He
Yeah.
almost never goes evil, but he's does it really evil here.
Yeah, Jim Caviezel's one of those guys who is actually who tries to be very good. Like he won't kiss another woman because he's
Right.
married.
Right.
And he's like, who's the other guy that I heard about this too? Is it what's his name? Guy in Ready Player One, and he's in a billion. I think he's in Homicide. Something McDonough, Neil McDonough. Neil McDonough won't.
Band of Brothers too.
Yeah. Neil McDonough won't kiss another woman.
Neither will Kirk Cameron.
Yeah.
Although, different level there.
Really hurt his career
Oh,
that not
man.
kissing other
No,
women.
Jim Caviezel is, as I understand, pretty religious guy and pretty conservative with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think I'm talking out of my ass. Don't spend too much time researching, but I think I even saw an interview where he said something about I wouldn't do this role or this role if I had it to do over again. Because you go back through, you got that firefighter, time travel, call my dad. Frequency. You got the Passion of the Christ. You can go back through Caviezel's, the golfer movie. He's almost always playing somebody really wholesome.
Thin Red Line, he's basically like Dudley Do-Right, right?
Yeah, and here he kills 543 people in a terrorist act.
He does understand this is fiction, though, right?
He does. But
Fictional characters.
I mean, I think, again, I'm not going to judge. I don't have children, but if I did, and I mean, there was a time in my life post-college when I started getting serious about growing up that I was like, I'm going to have to get rid of some of these movies just because I can't have Boogie Nights on the shelf when I have a 5-year-old running around, right? But ultimately, I just kept Boogie Nights and didn't have any kids. But those two decisions weren't really connected.
I rarely just compulsively watch something like here's something about Motley Crue. Sign me up. I was like immediately pressing play, and I'm like, wait a minute. I hate Motley Crue.
I know, me too. Me too. I've always hated Motley Crue.
They suck, man. And I was like, all right, I'll watch the. Oh God.